Hello and welcome to the OMO Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Dunigan.
And we finally got to this moment. This has been like this, sounds so weird, but this is something I've been looking more forward to than almost like anything else. And it's not that it's necessarily like I was looking more forward to it like it was going to be like the next greatest thing of all time. Like, you know, like a new Batman movie or something like that. It was more like I was just so interested. And I was interested from day one. Like, from the weird posters of like, if you got Sonic the Hedgehog with those really long legs and like you don't know what's going on, or that one where he's sitting over like the Golden Gate Bridge with like the floppy cock, and it's just like, whoa, get ready for a party. You know, or there was that...
There's the big blue boner peek out of the corner of the screen or whatever.
Yeah, well, it's just like the weirdest... Like, I mean, I get what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be like, you know, when someone takes a selfie, like, look at me, I'm sitting on the edge. But with Sonic, it just looked like... I don't know, it's just like, that was fucking weird looking.
Is the camera where his dick is?
Yeah. Yeah. Or then there was like, you know, there was the one where like he was hunched down, like, and it was kind of almost like he looked like a football player, like mascot. He just looked like a regular human that just happened to be wearing a Sonic the Hedgehog like helmet or something like that. Like all those like, weird posters.
I honestly
just, like,
thought that looked like. Sorry, I got this delay here.
What do you think it looked like?
It looked like that. It looked like there's the one where you see his silhouette and he looks kind of muscular and all that. That honestly looks like some shit you'd see on DeviantArt. I know a lot of people make that joke, but it honestly looks like someone had like a Photoshop day on DeviantArt and just went to town. And then you look like, God, that looks fucking frightening. But I still think that's when they were trying to figure out what it was going to be. Like, all right, here's what we got so far. Let's put this out there. And people are like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, because that was like the initial ones where it's just like they're just getting it dialed in, and you know, I'm still contemplating like if this whole thing was a publicity stunt. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, sometimes I just kind of go like, if there was like 100+ people in a room looking at something, not one person said, "Hey, you know that looks fucking weird." Like maybe we should do something about that, Jim. You know, like, the kids, I already know how my kid is, you know, you fucking bring him home, like, you know, a Mexican version of a Sonic the Hedgehog toy, and he flips out, so, like, I don't want to know what it's like when, you know, he sees this movie trailer.
Well, I feel like it's even one of those things, like, I don't know how you land on some of that. I honestly think, and I'm not going to say totally, what's his name, Tim Miller. I don't think it's him, because not like one producer has control of the whole thing. But I honestly feel like there's enough, like, just stupid decisions being made by people who just know, like, money and statistics, and just go, like, look, it doesn't match, it doesn't fit the aesthetic of the rest of the world. Why the fuck are we, no. People will get over it. Look, they went and saw the Ninja Turtles movie. That made money. They saw the Transformers. That made money. They bitched about it, but hey, we made our fucking money. And I think I'm a big Sonic fan, but at the same time, I think they really underestimated how fucking insane certain factions of Sonic fans are, you know?
Yeah, I think there is definitely that. See, it's like those ones, like, I could kind of go almost any direction with this, because, like, if it was a publicity stunt, like, I mean, granted, this day and age, it seems like people just can't keep their fucking mouth shut long enough anymore. It's like, there's this fucking whistleblowers everywhere, like, you know, where, like, I feel like in the olden days, you'd keep a secret really fucking well, you know what I mean? And just be like, okay, yeah, like, we're gonna play it off like we fucking, like, are idiots, and then 6 months later, we're gonna, like, act like we had to fix it, but it was already made like this, you know? Because you think about it, like, if that was a publicity stunt, that garnered so much more attention towards this movie than, let's just say, if this movie came out just exactly as it is right now, it probably would have kind of came and, like, went, but wouldn't have had that, like, whole year almost of just people, like, talking about a fucking Sonic the Hedgehog movie. So it's like, it's almost like those ones, if they did it that way, I almost give them so much more points for being, like, that fucking, like, yeah, let's fuck with the fans. We'll make it look like, we'll try to make this Hedgehog, because I kind of get, like, that original design, I know people always kind of hate it, like, you sort of see why, because, like, why they kind of went with it. I know what they were trying to do. That was just like an older person trying to make sense of probably like Sonic the Hedgehog, like what he would look like, I guess, in real life instead of being kind of like an anime character that just happens to be in real life. You know what I mean?
You're not sure if this thing was a total just ploy, like this Ocean's 11 type scheme, or if it was this thing of like that many people that oblivious to it. And I feel like maybe there's something kind of in the middle. Like maybe they knew, like not everyone in the production, maybe certain people in the production knew, like, man, they're going to lose their shit over this. We don't know how this thing's going to do. And then from there, like, you had other people like, no, I'll be fine. Just keep doing what we're fucking doing. And so they put maybe when they put up the silhouette, like, let's throw that out there and see if we can find some kind of middle ground, see what people think of. And then when they kind of finally got to putting Sonic in the movie, I think from there, that's where I think they really did redesign most of this movie. But I don't know. It's just such a weird... I think this movie, because it went from looking like a complete pile of dog shit to, I'll just say it, to a good movie. Like, saw first trailer, I'm like, this is gonna fucking suck. But I'm curious. They walked in like, oh, that was a good movie. I am so glad I was wrong.
Well, that first trailer was really like it was like, was it looked so weird and goofy and just bizarre and uncanny that like you almost wanted to see it just because you're like, shit, like I just want to see what the hell this is, because this is such a strange decision, you know, especially this day and age. Like that looks like, okay, if that movie came out in 2002, you would have probably been like, okay, I guess that's just what Sonic's gonna look like. You know what I mean? But in 2019-20, like, you're like, what the serious butt fucking Christ are they doing? Like, you know, like, that's just asking for trouble. Like, I wouldn't want to be Paramount at that moment.
Well, even that right there, because this movie still has, and like, I don't know what, I mean, I'm not going to blame the director or the writers. It's a good movie. It's not a perfect movie, and it still has some flawed things and some major cliches, but at least with what they have that works, more of that works than doesn't. And the things they got down was Jim Carrey, there's some moments where it's just like he's trying a little too hard, but generally is Robotnik, he's great. Sonic, Ben Schwartz Sonic, great. The way Ben Schwartz and James Marsden bounce off each other, that's really good. And then the action scenes are really good. So there's enough of that there to outweigh the, you know, more cliche things of the movie, but at the same time, knowing probably where they started, the writer and the director, I imagine I could see them wanting to do more original and more different things with the movie, but just like, all right, this is what we're doing. We're doing the Alvin and the Chipmunks Smurfs thing where they come into our world. How do we make it good, though?
Yeah, exactly. But like, and it's like one of those ones, like, because going into it, as we said this last podcast, like all it had to be for me was Sonic the Hedgehog 1. Like I didn't, you know, I wasn't going to be expecting, because you know there's going to be somebody who's going to go in there and be like, why is Big the Cat not in here? This movie is shit because of this. Blah, 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 blah. You know how there's always those people out there who, like, for some reason...
I'm going to say, if you want Big the Cat, go fuck yourself. Usually I'm going to say, be who you are. Like what you like. No one's going to judge you. I'm going to judge you if you're complaining Big the Cat's not in this movie. If you want Big the Cat, fuck off.
Okay, well, maybe there's somebody out there instead who's like, well, why is,
That's my Jar Jar Binks.
Why is, you know, Metal Sonic not in there? If I would have made a Sonic movie, blah, 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 you know, one of those people. It's like, no. All that, to me, I was like, it's just gotta be Sonic. It's just gotta be Dr. Robotnik. And, like, we'll just see from, like, that point on. Like, I'll go in with just, like, make it simple, we'll make it fun, whatever, and then just go from there. And it totally delivers, like, on just that. And just kind of doing, I don't know, the whole way through the movie, it's like you're having it's fun. You're having a good time. Like, the pacing's good. You know what I mean? It's just like that. It's that classic, like, road trip movie where it's like, I need to get home. Mister, you take me. Why? Because you're a good person. And you have to. It's like, well, I am a good person, and I guess I have to. And, you know, so, you know, they go on their road trip and so on. But it's almost like one of those ones, which sounds kind of weird for the fact that Sonic's going on a road trip when you really, like, say that. Like, why doesn't fucking just run there? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, well, he's bad at directions. They give
good examples.
Just like he's not very good at directions. Well, why does he kick the GPS? Well, you know, he didn't learn to read. He just knows how to talk. I mean, those Flash comics, he's just looking at the pictures. Let's just be honest.
Or it's just one of those things like, give him your phone. Like, fuck him, it's my phone. I'd rather drive him across the fucking country than give him my phone.
Yeah, I don't know where his hands have been. Probably
Or the
jerking
GPS
off,
probably
jerking
can't
off in
even.
that cave all day long.
Why he's always wearing those gloves? He's he's in at least some way sanitary about it. But no, I'll say this. They don't really go into it too much, and there is some kind of like logic gaps in some of that stuff. But I think realistically, like, we'll just follow directions. Like, well, in all honesty, for how fast he moves, the GPS probably couldn't keep up. So you might as well just go with somebody who knows the way.
Yeah, exactly. It's just one of those ones, like, I mean, granted, there's that part where he runs to, like, the fucking, like, Pacific Ocean and then just goes, like, fuck it. Not doing this. You drive me. Be like, yeah.
Well, going forward with the movie, just spoiler alert ahead. I thought they did a really good job with when it comes to characterization of Sonic, because a lot of times Sonic's like, whoa man, you got a juice, you're too slow. You know, sometimes it's just like that forever. So this movie did a good job of actually, I don't want to sound all like artsy and cliche, but kind of making a little bit more reason behind it. The reason he's like that is like he's been alone on Earth by himself, and the movie actually plays in a loneliness and in some ways I think kind of mental illness and what happens when you're separated from someone too long. It's more of him, just that all comes from him trying to like make the best and try make the best time he has out of what he has, but at the same time not really having anybody to react to. So he's almost got to be his own best friend, so he's almost always super energetic all the time, combined with like deep down he's like, when he's playing baseball, when he stops, realizes there's nobody here. Like, it's that whole part where he's playing baseball starts off as a fun scene, and then it ends up being sad by the time it's over.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just one of those ones, because you think of always Sonic being like too cool, you know what I mean, like fucking center of attention, but it's like, in a sense, almost if you did sort of rip Sonic at a young age from his fucking like homeland or whatever, and then just had him kind of like grow up like on Earth and just have that like, whoa, I want to have a good time, but yeah, I can't show myself to anybody. You know what I mean? You just gotta like hide here and creep. I gotta creep into people's houses and look through their windows. And that's how I watch movies.
Here's the thing. Here's another thing. Here's the thing about that, because they get across that he loves the town he's in. He likes the people there, but he just kind of keeps a distance at him. And even then, because you know they do the whole Disney thing where it's just like parental figure dead right at the beginning, and I'm gonna give the movie credit. It wasn't Knuckles, but they used the Echidna tribe to kill off his mother owl figure. And I'm gonna say, if there's one thing I think this movie could have benefited more, like maybe 10, 15 more minutes, and maybe 5 or 10 of those minutes, like in like the opening world of Mobius. Not just so we get to see more of Mobius, but just so we can see the contrast of what he was like when he was younger, having a good time, and like, hey, we got to pull you away. You don't want to show your powers around. And the one time he does show his powers, he gets caught, or they leads him right to his mom, and she dies. You know?
Yeah, and you know, granted, that probably is the thing. Is I feel like that beginning part was part of the in the last 6 months, the thing that was put together. So, you know, maybe if the movie was like that from the start, you'd probably have like a little bit more extended scene of that, and that would be kind of neat, because that was the thing. Is like I kind of like the whole time in the movie, I was hoping it would come back to those echidnas at some point, even if it was just for like a brief second, even if it was even at the end of the credits or something like that. You know what I mean? Just a little bit more. I mean, I think granted that we'll get to that in a little bit, but I feel like that's what maybe the second one would lead into. But it would be kind of neat to see just a tad bit more Mobius, and even Sonic, even if it's just that baby Sonic, even more.
I mean, I'm not expecting to see a whole half of the movie taking place in Mobius. I would have liked to do that. I'm not going to say, like, if we wrote the movie, but I know, like, it's one of those things, like, I know a lot of people are mad that it's just Robotnik and Sonic, and I know that if, you know, most people who probably like it, it's also, I heard that all they had the rights to was Sonic 1 and then just miscellaneous things here and there. So that's the kind of reason why they pull from it. But also, if you're playing on this theme of loneliness, I guess you do have to go with Sonic 1, because that defeats the plug. Man, I'm all alone. I'm here, Sonic! Shut the fuck up, Tails!
Yeah, I'm fucking alone. Wish it was you were fucking.
You're not with me. I'm not with you. You're just tagging along with me because you can't fucking keep up. I wouldn't be so alone if you could fucking keep up with me, you stupid piece of shit. Like, it's like some weird abusive relationship. Like, I'm your biggest fan, Sonic. No, you're the biggest fucking disappointment. Just like my fucking owl mom told me. Christ, this thing went all like fucking like this went art film real quickly.
Yeah, exactly. And as I said, like for me, like once again, I was only going into it like, oh, it has to be a Sonic 1. Sonic 1, like we don't need any of the you know, in a sense, the excess characters. And I feel that like the movie does sort of like leave off that like I think that you can almost go full Sonic the Hedgehog on the second one. Like, and I think that you would probably work, and nobody would really question it by this point.
The way this movie ends, and we'll go in more order in a little while, but the way the movie ends, it does feel like it could kind of go almost any direction. Like we could hop back to his world all of a sudden, or characters from Sonic's world could all come to Earth, or they hop back and forth. Like it honestly feels like maybe even James Marsden and Tika Sumpter can take a back seat in the next movie, which, not that they did a bad job, but I'd be okay with that, really, if that was the case. Because, you know, we're all more there for Sonic, you know. So the whole thing with, if they move forward, whatever direction they end up going, I guess that's kind of, because this movie really, this is going to sound like I'm being a dick for a second, it's kind of a, when you hear the premise that, oh, it's a cartoon character from another world stuck in our world, you're like, this shit again. But then the way the movie pulls it off, like, oh, you guys actually did a good job at this. This is something that's really tired and really cliche, and some of those still peek into this movie, but not as much as they could have, and you guys did a pretty good job. So moving forward, the second one, hopefully this one does good enough job, makes enough money to do a second one. I guess I hope it doesn't lead into that Transformers sequel territory, where, because the whole thing with the first Transformers, you can say what you will about that movie itself, but like, oh, it's not that accurate to the cartoon or whatever, or this or that, but it's a solid standalone adventure, disaster, robot monster movie. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, once you get to the second one, they still got to find a way to crowbar these human characters in there who, you know, it's like we know who the Transformers are now. We don't need Shia LaBeouf and his family and his fucking girlfriend and his goofy ass roommate or whoever. We don't need all those people by this point. We can just focus on the robots. He could be there, but he doesn't have to be the main focus. So I just hope moving forward sequels, they don't do that. They don't find reasons to suddenly, you know, like they don't suddenly treat all the animals like Transformer characters. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hope that they could be smart, because that's the thing about Transformers. Transformers never learned that lesson. Even that Bumblebee movie, it's like, God, they're still doing the same fucking thing over again. And it's not saying you can't enjoy those movies, but it's just one of those ones, sometimes it gets to a point where it's just like, can't we just do a straight-up Transformers movie? You know what I mean? Like, if you take them for what they are, I mean, yeah, they are fun and, you know, fine, but if you want the real deal, it's like they still have not done that yet. And it's kind of like one of those ones, like the Sonic one, like it almost leaves off so perfectly that you almost could say, like, you know what, the human characters, they're living life fine, you know, like that whole plot line's all tied up. You don't really even need to have them. Like, you could have them as like a cameo almost, but like you could literally just be like, okay, now it's a CG movie. It's pretty much Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and, you know, Dr. Robotnik being your live action character.
Well, I'd even be fine if, because something this movie does a good job of, James Marsden playing the cop, Tom, or was it Tom or Tim? I don't remember.
I think
it was Tom.
Yeah, fucking Donut Lord.
Donut Lord, yeah, playing Donut Lord.
Which you ever think is kind of ironic that he looks sort of like Star-Lord? Like, I was wondering, is that what that joke's supposed to more be about? It's like, because he just looks fucking like Chris Hemsworth, Chris Pratt.
Well, they were trying to. I think Chris Pratt was one of the first people they were going after.
Because it's like you those ones you look at him and it's like you're like, God, that guy literally looks like he could be Chris Pratt's like stand-in almost. You know what I mean? And then to top it off, he's got the Donut Lord, and I was just maybe that was a joke that was like the initial script when they had Chris Pratt and they're like, fuck it, we're keeping the Donut Lord thing.
It's like, well, we want to get a Marvel guy, so we're looking at Chris Pratt, we're looking at Paul Rudd. Were both names that they were considering. Like, oh, well, you said you got a Marvel guy. How about Cyclops? Like, I mean, that's not the Marvel we were thinking of, but that'll work, yeah.
It's not the Marvel, but, yeah, whatever, get there.
Yeah. But no, he did a good job, and in all honesty, if they decided to, like, take the movie to, if they do a sequel, and they decide to go to Mobius or wherever, like other worlds from Sonic, and for some reason Tika Sumpter and James Marsden went along with them, they were both good enough characters. They weren't annoying. They didn't hold the movie back too much. So I think they'd be fine if they tagged along. I don't think they need to tag along, but if they did, I totally would understand why. Plus, Sonic and James Marsden had a really good chemistry together, you know. And on top of that, this movie also did a really good job, because a lot of times those movies about this cartoon character or whatever coming to our world, a lot of the times they make the human character the main character, and then this is just this creature they got to help out. Like, they treat it kind of like E.T. But this one, Sonic was very much the main character.
Yeah, and I think that's what sort of made it nice. Was it focused on Sonic, and then there was no bad side characters in it. There was never an annoying kid or something like that. Like, and I think that was what made it kind of strong, is because it does have that, in a sense, you would say almost like an old fashioned, like, we don't know what to do with this property, so let's just do that storyline again. But it somehow, like, it's like it found a way to fire like every single time and work out well. That, like, oh, the action's good, the character's good, the dialogue is good. It even like nails all, like, even just little Sonic things that, like, only, like, I guess you would say a hardcore Sonic fan knew. It's like they still threw like tidbits of that sprinkled throughout the movie too. That I thought that was kind of neat. That could have been just totally minused out and never even mentioned. But, like, I was just glad that those were there, kind of like as it went along.
Yeah, like the one I'll say this. There's some things in there I'm surprised they made nods to. Like, there's the Sonic, whatever they call the very bad Sonic drawing that's all over online. I like how the crazy UFO guy, he's all like, this is what he looks like, holds up that picture. Like, that was a pretty good joke. Like, all right, someone did their research there. Or they asked Tyson Hess, who helped with the redesign. But I can honestly see them. Like, I'm wondering. I don't think anything was reshot for that. All that was just CG'd stuff. The stuff they redid for it. So, who knows? But even that part, even like when he was fucking with that old man character, I thought that was pretty funny. Just because they have that whole scene where he says, "This is crazy, Carl. I just like to fuck with him a little bit," and you see Sonic leaving those traps. Like, I know you're real. He's like, "No, I'm not." Well, no. I thought it was pretty good when they had the whole, like, even there's like the old man who had the, like, crazy Carl, who was like a UFO nut and all that. And when Sonic would just go around fucking with him, and he was just like, "I know you're out there. I know you're real." He's like, "No, I'm not."
He just, like, dicks with him.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this, because earlier we were talking about how Sonic just kind of creeps and looms in on people, and that's how he kind of learns the city, about the town. I'm going to say, initially when they did the redesign, I was like, you know what? He looks a lot better in this movie. Everything looks a lot better, but at the exact same time, I'm not sure if that was the best play for these guys, just because how much more money that's going to cost, and if this movie's going to make that money back. Because originally, I don't think this movie was that expensive, but with the redesign on top of that, I think it made it so much more expensive. So it's one of those things of like, okay, well, hopefully this movie could still pull it off. But watching this movie again, seeing it was only Sonic and Robotnik, and we only go to Mobius like once in the movie, I think it was a really good idea to do the redesign after all. Because initially I was like, I'm not sure if they're going to make their money back. But I actually think this Sonic, aside from looking like Sonic, he looks like you have a lot more sympathy for him. Because original Sonic, I mean, you could tell what he was supposed to be, but I think that, you know, this Sonic's a lot more expressive. And I think plus, it wouldn't be, imagine that fucking thing, like, creeping underneath, like, baseball bleachers, like, at a fucking Little League game. That's, like, the beginning of It Part 2. So, you know, it's gonna be, like...
Well,
no, just scratch that.
The other one would have had that feeling, and this is probably what they were going with, if this was, like, legitimately what that other design was for, would have been that kind of like, it's a monster out there, and you're going to befriend a monster. And it almost makes sense, like, why Dr. Bond's like, fucking kill it, look at that thing! You know, where now it's more like, oh, look, it's a cute little creature. Robotnik's still like, fucking kill it, I need to research it!
He's like, it's Sonic the Bigfoot, kind of, is kind of like, I think maybe the idea they're going with. Yeah. But imagine that thing, because like how creepy a lot of those scenes, because a lot of those scenes they show them, it's like, oh, it's just Sonic being a fun little scamp, just running around, having at the speed of sound, and then you see him, like, imagine it, like, he's in the dark watching through a window as they watch Speed. And like he's just imagine how much creepier that whole scene would be.
Exactly. But at the same time, like when I was watching the movie, like I almost could kind of see why that design, like how that design kind of fit into that movie. Like it almost like it's like one of those ones like it's definitely not the right choice, but I see like I'm like I get what was I kind of could get like why that choice was made, you know? Like and I think it was supposed to be sort of like, hey, it's a weird monster that like can't like show itself and so on, because almost like what you see Sonic like is like the cute anime version of himself instead, which is like makes more sense Sonic wise, but you kind of go like, well, he doesn't look nearly as threatening. You could see where it'd be almost more like scary and why Creepy Carl, or not Creepy Carl, Creepy Carl, like Crazy Carl was out there creepy. Like chasing down a monster. Yeah, I guess he was kind of creepy too. He's like, he brings a fucking chainsaw to like fucking like Center Plaza. But
well, I can honestly believe that like earlier version of Sonic just be like rummaging through trash, like they show the part where they have like the raccoons like almost starting off like a horror movie, like they show the raccoons like rummaging through the trash, and then Tom's like, oh god damn it, like Tom, just leave him alone. Fine, walks by, all of a sudden this blue bird goes by, just like past the raccoon. You see him like gnawing on it, looking all feral, like gnawing on the back of the raccoon's neck while it's still alive,
like that's how he was surviving.
Flap a bloody skin just hanging from his mouth, like looking around all directions, like, oh shit, they went a really different direction with this movie.
You never know, it might have worked that way. Like I really wish that like they make a special edition version of this movie when it comes out on Blu-ray that you could watch the original cut.
They just might
kind of like Clerks X, like where you get 3 discs. What I mean?
Yeah. Well, now I'm just imagining this being kind of like a bottle horror movie where there is like this blue thing that moves really fast, just like picking people off, kind of like a monster slasher flick kind of thing. Like I'm now imagining that.
Well, it's like really that could be like Sonic could be like the scariest thing out there when you really think about it, because like you can't see him, he's the blue blur, but he eats people. He feeds on them
and
at
he
night.
Speeds so fast, like blow you up basically as you're trying to run away.
And he shoots electricity out of his butt. Like, what? It's like yeah,
that's the thing they added. That's the thing they added. He has like this power source inside of him, and they're taking liberties with it, and I get that, but I guess it gives more of a reason for everything that happens to happen. Where before he was always just the thing stopping and getting in the way, and this thing he actually is more or less the Chaos Emerald.
Yeah, I felt like that worked. It was like a little bit different. Because also there's that point at the very end of the movie. I'm like, oh shit, is he gonna go supersonic? I mean, I'm like, well, I guess he doesn't have all the Chaos Emeralds, but you never know. Maybe he is anyways. And it's like, oh no, they're just using the straight up electricity thing, which that kind of works. And it's kind of like a supersonic sort of.
What came to mind is there's that move in Sonic Adventure 1 where you hold down, like he charges up, and he's like ready. You see all these beams of light going into him, and then he like glows like blue. That's kind of what I thought that was maybe a reference to.
Oh yeah, that totally makes sense too. Yeah, women the charge up and everything like that. Yeah,
and then
I
you
can
let
see that.
go of like whatever the B button is, and he just like knocks out all the enemies in one hit that are in the area.
Mm-hmm. They're like kind of like somewhat homing attack, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah.
But
Speed light attack is what it's called, or something like that.
I also do love how Sonic the Hedgehog goes to a bar and he's like, I've always wanted to go to a bar.
That part right there. Here's another thing, like, because that's another cliche thing about like, oh, we're on a road trip, we're gonna stop at like a country bar, and of course some racist redneck asshole is gonna start shit with us, and that happens in a lot of those movies, and I get why they do that, because you need something to have a little bit of action in there, and even though it's a little cliche, I still found that part funny in itself, just because when he says the line, like, we don't like your kind around here, he's like, what? He's like, hipsters. It's like he's a fucking hedgehog, but okay. Or then, like, I like how Sonic looks so stern, like, he just, like, said the most racist thing possible. He's like, you take that back.
Yeah, exactly. Don't you ever fucking call me a hipster. Don't you fucking dare.
And that's where they totally rip off X-Men First Class and Days of Future Past, but with the Quicksilver thing. But at the same time, it's Sonic, so it makes total sense as of why and how.
Yeah, that's what I felt too. It's like they used it a couple times in the movie, and it's probably like I get it, like because it's like Sonic, Quicksilver, Flash. They're all kind of in that same like you could sort of use that, and it's one of those things where other than X-Men, you really don't see that in any other movie. So I guess it's one of those ones like I guess not too. I guess you could probably say it's not overplayed yet. And I get, and being a kind of a kids movie, I guess you could almost say it's a little bit different. It's weird. I felt like it still kind of worked. They probably didn't need to do it more than once in the movie, I thought. But like other than that, though, it's like, you know what? That's one of the coolest scenes out of those like newer X-Men, anyways. Like kind of like always seems to sort of work. Like you never go like, oh, Quicksilver's gonna do his speed run thing again, slow down time. You never go like, oh, fucking this again. It's always like, oh, that's always kind of neat. You know what I mean?
Did he do that in Dark Phoenix?
I want to say he did. I'm pretty sure he did. I don't see why he wouldn't have done it.
Do you remember what song they played? Because I know in
No,
it was Time in a Bottle in Days of Future Past. Okay. And then they had like Sweet Dreams, or Sweet Dreams Are Made of These, and like in Apocalypse. So I'm wondering, did you pick a '90s song for the next one? I was kind of wondering about that, but yeah.
I think they did, but I couldn't tell you what it was if it was. But well, even like I'll say this, the Sonic the Hedgehog actually had a pretty good soundtrack too. I mean, I wish, this is just the Sonic fan of me. There's just a couple moments where it's like, I wish they would have used some like real Sonic, like, Sonic Adventure type songs, you know what I mean? Because there was parts where, I mean, one, you got San Francisco in there. It seems so weird to not have Escape the City, especially when he's running away from Robotnik or something like that. But, so I feel like that was a little bit of a missed opportunity that I don't think would have been that hard, because clearly that band can't be that expensive to get, you know what I mean? It's not like Rolling Stones fucking wrote that song.
Crush 40.
Well, Crush 40 didn't write that one.
I think
it's like
Escape from the City.
Yeah, that's a different band that does that one.
Oh, okay.
I know it seems like it should be Crush 40, but like for some reason they're like, well, we're not gonna give Crush 40 all the royalties. We'll get one other band in this song or in this game. Or like I don't know what it was, like when it showed the Paramount logo and it had like the rings, like it almost should have had that like 7 rings in hand.
I think that one has like the one of the Megadeth guitarists in there, so.
Oh, well, that might make it tough then, but you never know. But like that was the only thing. There's a couple points with that, but I will say like the soundtrack that they did have though was like the songs. I felt like they all kind of worked, and they were all kind of fun in like a weird way, and like they worked with each one of the scenes and so on.
One of my favorite parts of the movie is probably when we're seeing what Sonic's doing in modern day, and they're playing Queen's "Don't Stop Me Now." Like, that was probably one of my favorite parts of the movie right there. And yeah, it's fun. It's more of just exposition stuff, but that just kind of like, I feel like that really just endeared you. I mean, I already liked this character, and I wanted to see a Sonic movie since I was a little kid. And then once, I saw this thing coming out, I wasn't like, oh no, I suddenly changed my mind. I'm just like, let's see where this fucking goes. But luckily, it goes to a good place. But at the same time, just seeing him, I think that whole opening scene with not the opening scene, but the scene where he's in Green Hills, you see him getting endured to, it's kind of endearing you to him and playing Queen. That, I really like that montage.
No, I think that is really cool too. And it's just like, once again, like I think the tunes really make it, like it fits like Sonic-like and so on. Because I was always kind of afraid that it was going to have just a bunch of like, well, here's some random, new stuff that, has really nothing to do with Sonic the Hedgehog, but Paramount has like the rights to it, so fuck you.
Well, I also, there's that part where, what were they playing? I got it. For whatever reason, I want to say, I thought it was Welcome to the Jungle when he's out front of the bar. Maybe it wasn't Welcome to the Jungle, but for whatever my memory's saying that. He's like, that looks like the coolest place ever. There's like a monster truck. Just won't go in. There's a guy like doing like standing on his motorcycle. It's doing a wheelie like from the side. He's like, must be strong, rocking back and forth in the seat.
Well, that part right there, that reminded me of like, that is totally like 90s Sonic right there. Because that was the one thing I will say that I felt like they captured really well, is it had a very good like 90s whole vibe to the whole kind of movie. It really felt like this movie could have came out along with like Double Dragon and Super Mario Brothers. Like, granted, I know Sonic's CG, but let's just assume that technology was good enough at the time. It feels like it would have fit in perfectly right in that kind of era. And just seeing that scene was like, because I feel like that's because Sonic to me in this movie reminded me like a 10-year-old kind of boy version of Sonic. Like, so he's younger than what he would normally be. Because I feel like Sonic's mostly like, in my mind, I picture him like 25-year-old attitude. You know what I mean? Someone might say maybe like a hip teenager, but I always feel like he's sort of a little bit older and kind of like a little bit wiser. Where in this one, it's like, oh my god, 10-year-old. Because you think about a 10-year-old, if you saw like a biker bar, would think that's probably like the coolest thing ever. It's like, dude, they got motorcycles and hot rods, and look at, they're fighting.
Yeah, well, he's like Sonic's really supposed to be 15 or 16, but to me, he always came across like he was in his early 20s. That's how he always came across to me. But at the same time, though, plus he's always kind of getting there saving cops and from and helping, like here to help, officer, get out of the way. Like, all right, let this 16-year-old hedgehog through. Come on, people, move.
Yeah, and I always feel like that's more like a Japanese thing, because Japanese like always love to have, for some reason, like 17-year-olds be the heroes. But I feel like in America, like we gotta raise that age up a little bit to make it a little bit more believable. But like this one, I feel like, to me, it's like I picture Sonic being like a 10-year-old boy. Like, you know what I mean? He's like Pokemon age. He's ready to go on his fucking first adventure type thing.
Yeah, no, they get across that he's like that has like a hyperactive little kid who just wants to see the world. And even the part when him and
it really sounds funny when you say it's like he's a 10-year-old and a police officer's taking him to a bar because it's like on his bucket list, and it's like he's 10 years old. Why does he have a bucket list? Like, is that supposed to be what you have when you're like 95 and ready to die?
Well, I kind of like I was kind of almost expecting like, what's a bucket list? The things you want to do before you kick the bucket. Like, what's that? It's when you die, Sonic. He's like, we all eventually die? Like one of those things. I never had this conversation with my owl mom. What do you mean? We all die? I'm gonna die one day? Like, oh, shit, yeah. Like, oh, there's so much I have to do. And it just becomes like this real, like looking into like, existential life crisis movie.
Yeah, it's like, dude, you're 10 years old, dude, you don't worry about it. 10 years old, I'm a fucking hedgehog. I only got 2 years to live. Oh god, he just like runs out the room, next thing he's just like in Colombia just doing all the lines of cocaine in that same kind of like montage style. Exactly. Like Ram Jam playing or something like that.
Like Rammstein, and it goes in like that Quicksilver style, like slow mo, like do us. He's just like running by doing a line of like something off somebody right before they do it. Like he's like playing like darts or like fucking switchblades or something, just barely missing people.
Exactly. But yeah, what was I saying? Something about that bar scene. There's like a lot that happens in that bar scene. It sounds like a weird one. Like this is a weird, like, well, you know that Sonic the Hedgehog bar scene? It's like I felt like there's a lot of things that were going on just in that one moment.
Well, I'll say something about that because I heard people complaining about this. At the same time, I think it's kind of meant to be somewhat of a joke. But the whole thing is he was hidden for so long that this is actually going to kind of play into another sort of complaint I have about the movie. Since we're not taking place in Mobius, we're taking place in, United States. I think if you're going to show us the coolest, most interesting thing in the movie at the beginning, you should at least try and follow up with some really cool scenery shots throughout the film. And even though, there's some pretty mountainscape shots of Montana, I think a lot of the movie just kind of has a very, like, they get to San Francisco, and, whether you love or hate San Francisco, there's some very visual, interesting things in San Francisco. But they just go straight to the Trans America building or whatever, So,
yeah, they're really only in San Francisco for like a moment.
Bar. Yeah, and then they just go to another biker bar that looks like it's from every other movie. Even though that scene works, I almost think, like, I don't know, this isn't me trying to totally rewrite the movie. Keep in mind, I'm fully acknowledging I'm doing the easiest thing in the world, which is judge it after the fact, so don't take this as me, like, saying, they should have done this. But I honestly think something that could have made it more, like, I don't know, maybe what if it was Halloween? That way you could explain, okay, it's a costume. That's how he's able to go in there. Like, dude, it's Halloween. It's the one time a year I can kind of just blend into the crowd and no one's going to question anything. Let's just do this, And it's like maybe rather than just a biker bar, it's like a metal show on Halloween or something like that. You know what I mean? Something like that. I don't know.
Use the Ninja Turtles kind of thing.
I just think something that would give its... Yeah.
Because that's always the thing about Ninja Turtles. They're like, man, it's fucking Mardi Gras. Like, people will respect me now.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, because the beginning of the movie goes so out of its way to say, dude, you gotta hide. And then he just kind of puts on a hat and then a flannel, and then one person's like, what is that? Like, oh, he's a 40-year-old man with a growth disorder and a skin condition. Don't worry about it. But then, I guess that's supposed to be a quick thing to dismiss it. I guess it's kind of a joke, but at the same time, I feel like it could have, there's just, it's probably more like on production level than it is something on like screenplay or directing. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this is all we have to work with, so I guess we got to make this happen,
Yeah, and I mean, like, I will say it is one of those ones, like, I know that it's kind of, it's like, it is a simple movie, kind of is, like, really at the end of the day, it is a low-budget movie, in a sense, as far as a major motion picture goes, enough to be in theaters, but not, like, the biggest of them all, but, I don't know, like, it's like, I think it's like one's like, yeah, it's like there's definitely ways you could always make it like much better, but I think just for what it turned out to be as well as ones, I guess that's like it kind of just blew me away in that sense. Like, man, that was a fucking good movie. You know what I mean? Like that was like pretty much a solid film from beginning to end. You know what I mean? Like even like stuff that you think that would maybe be kind of dumb still kind of worked out. And just even the journey itself is like one's like, yeah, there was nothing you could really complain about. I just feel like hopefully it's just in the second one, it allows them to go full Sonic the Hedgehog, or maybe not full. Let's say 75%, like pretty darn close.
I don't think that they're going to be having anything like Shadow in the next one, but obviously, spoilers again. Obviously, Tails will be in the next one, unless what if he just shows up like, hey, Sonic knocks on the door, like he's like, Sonic, there's like a fox here for it. You just gone. Like, shit, like, fuck, he found me. He just keeps running.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like, if I had to guess, I mean, this is where you gotta be careful about just going into like, what if kind of territory. But if is that they would almost do sort of a Sonic 3, Sonic and Knuckles type storyline next. So you'll bring back the Echidnas, and that will be kind of part of it. Dr. Robotnik's in a different dimension at the moment. So now, like, he'll be out there pretty much taking that over, and maybe you can even introduce the Seven Emeralds. That's probably what's getting probably too much Sonic stuff for one movie, but use that. Maybe the Emeralds is also his way of getting back. Something like that. You know what I mean? You could work that into there. And then you kind of have him, befriend the Echidnas, but then he'll betray them, of course. And that's where you get Sonic versus Knuckles.
Yeah, I think the next one's going to be Robotnik recruiting Knuckles, or maybe the Echidnas come across him. And because, between here and there, it's going to be probably 2 years or 3 years before the next movie comes out, if another one comes out. So between here and there, he could probably already, because he still has the quill. And he's resourceful, so you could probably start making something small, or make at least a robot suit, get something rolling for that, and then have the Echidnas on his side. And Tails can clearly cross over to other worlds too, so by then maybe you can get some of his old tech, and who knows what kind of thing they're going to come up with. But I definitely see him doing something to the point of like maybe they're being immediately, because this one's all about finding friends, sticking with your friends, and just kind of moving forward with that. The next one, I could see it being more, and this isn't me trying to look too deep into it, I'm just assuming, I could see that being more of kind of like a revenge / forgiveness kind of movie, because I could see
kinda
Sonic
like making new friends.
Aside from whatever lies Robotnik tells Sonic to get him going against Knuckles, God fucking damn it, the stupid fucking internet. I could see the next one being something of like some kind of possible revenge / forgiveness story, just because Sonic knows it was fucking Echidnas that killed his owl mom, and Knuckles is an Echidna, so you could probably get, and then there's whatever lies Robotnik told Knuckles to get them going against them. So because I think a lot of people by this point forget that they just think of Sonic, Tails, Knuckles. They forget, a lot of younger fans I think forget that Knuckles started off as a bad guy, just out of miscommunication. So I think most people think, oh yeah, who's Sonic's rival? Oh, that's Shadow the Hedgehog or Silver or whoever. But now it's like, no. Now let's go back to the basics. It's Knuckles.
Yeah, Knuckles, and it always, that is it. That's the bottom line.
So I feel like that they'll probably do something. I mean, I'm not expecting anything too intense or too dramatic, but I'm expecting that's probably going to be Sonic's big hook. Maybe maybe it's, or even something to the effect of kind of like, because, you know, as you play the game and you play Sonic, Tails is always chasing behind you, like, wait up, fuck, you know, and then, like, you know, dying and then coming back and all that. I can almost see him making a point of like, you know what, Sonic, you finally got some friends and all that. You finally got this kid who loves you. But at the same time, you're too focused on fucking fighting this Knuckles character who you think is partially responsible for killing Al Mom. So, you know.
It makes it sound like it's a Dragon Ball Z movie. Like Sonic, you gotta stop training. He's like, I gotta beat Knuckles. There's no way. It's the only way to do it.
So he has a 5 o'clock shadow. He has like 3 cigarettes, just like bench pressing.
Just like one of those ones that the second half of the movie is just like literally an hour-long fight scene of fucking Sonic and Knuckles. Just like one of those like slobber knock fights, just brutal, almost like, you know, like in They Live, like that fight scene that goes on for like fucking 15 minutes in like the back alley. We'll take that to like an hour.
Or it's even like some like intense, like, you know, training, like Sonic. There's maybe like even like a 10-minute scene of just Sonic training with no dialogue, and just, you know, maybe at some point he's looking in the mirror, he's doing that thing like in Foxcatcher, he's like slapping the side of his face and like slams his head into the fucking mirror, like, oh yeah.
Just getting super amped up and everything like that, you know. Well, also another thing we did something we did, like kind of like one of the big things in the movie we just never mentioned was Jim Carrey's sort of like Dr. Robotnik, and you know, I overall thought that was like, one, like pretty good, and two, it's like when you think about that, it's like what makes, I think, Jim Carrey like such a kind of a perfect choice in a sense. I mean, like, right, he's not fat, like that's like the one thing that's kind of missing, but let's say beyond that is, you think about it, when Sonic was at his height of his popularity, that's the same time Jim Carrey was too, so it almost like he kind of works as that, like, you know, representing that like 1993 kind of era time period.
Yeah, I think that's almost kind of like, I think that was definitely intentional. They're probably looking at it from a couple of angles. They're probably looking at it from, okay, Sonic was obviously big in the 90s. By this point, first generation Sonic fans have kids. They probably want to take their kids to see it. Like, oh, look, Jim Carrey, Ace Ventura, Ace Ventura, Liar Liar, all that stuff. You know, they'll probably want to take their kids, like, show that. Or maybe even parents are showing their kids those movies by this point, too. So I feel like that this is, like, there are moments where, even though it was still Jim Carrey, so you knew you were getting, and it was still funny, there are moments where he's just like, oh, I bet you're just hella popular, doing the, like, you know, ham boning and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, there are moments like that where it wasn't funny, but it just seemed a little kind of forced. I know that's Jim Carrey's thing, but then when he actually wanted to be serious and threatening, he actually was. Like, where when he goes into James Marsden's house and he's walking around, and some of the threats he's making, like, I can kill you right here in 5 minutes, and no one's gonna know you ever existed, you know. And just some of the smaller jokes, like, you know, when he was talking shit to M. Bison from Legend of Chun Li, and he says like, is he still looking at me funny? Like, yes, he is. Like, don't make me pull up his search history, you know. We just had, like, did that with all his gloves. Like, had, like, all the buttons on his gloves. Kind of like a power glove sort of thing.
Exactly. And yeah, there are some lines in there he had that were just, like, fucking, like, fantastically hilarious, too. And then plus, you know, it's like the very end, you get, like, super Dr. Robotnik, where he shaves his head, he's got the huge mustache, and it's like, oh, I can't wait to see a full movie of that.
Well, I guess there's also, some people are saying, you know, he just doesn't seem like Dr. Robotnik to me. It's like, new. All right, okay. There's a couple different Robotniks. There's super sinister, dark Robotnik from the Saturday morning cartoon, and then there's buffoonish Robotnik and everything else. Mm-hmm. And this is more buffoonish Robotnik, and I get, while, you know, he's like, I'll get you, Hedgehog. He has a little bit of that, but he's more of like, I think Jim Carrey doing the Jim Carrey thing was a good choice for the most part. There's some moments where I felt like, even the part where he stopped and danced, like he's feeling like he just got to win, so he's just like dancing, he's just cutting loose. And even though that was just, hey Jim, just do you for like 4 minutes, we'll figure out what we can do with that. I thought, like, just the idea of just, I know that's like, that scene was not needed, and it kind of went on for a while, but fuck, it was entertaining.
That's what I mean. Like, it's at the end of the day, it's like, it worked. It worked. If, you know, on paper, that might have been a weird choice, but then you're like, oh, you know what? When that's done, it's that. Plus, I also just like, I love the creepiness of, like, when his assistant's just right behind him at the very end, like, dancing.
Well, like how like the music just cuts. Like, what the fuck? You know? He's like, oh, I brought you a latte.
He's like, it's like almost that thing. Like, I thought we were fucking dancing here. Like, just joining in.
I understand it's a rights thing, and this once again, most of these, I wish they did this, I wish they did that. It's nothing enough for me to knock the movie off. It's just personal preferences, and I get that you can't check all these boxes, but I would have loved it so much if his little right hand man was named Snively.
Oh, that would have been like the perfect, like just one of those small things, and I feel like that wouldn't have been out of like the total question. Now, granted, that also might be one of those weird ones because since that's like the cartoon Sonic and not the video game Sonic, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like there's you wonder like those characters that are made in there, like who technically owns that part of the rights and so on, but
well. Apparently, earlier drafts of the movie pulled from Sonic Underground, of all things. Apparently, they're kind of going for that thing of like, okay, here is the Sonic stuff we have the rights to. Here's stuff that's kind of ambiguous, and we can kind of move around it, but still kind of pull from. And they were going to apparently show Sonic more of Sonic when he was younger, and rather than a bunch of echidnas, it was a bunch of, like, I guess, lizard people that were coming for him and trying to kind of... And I think that was, like... I think that not all of them, but I think he did have some kind of lizard enemies in Sonic Underground at some point that were kind of going after him and his brother and sister.
Sonic Underground's like the weirdest one to pull from, because that Sonic Underground reminds me totally like it's one of those many kind of stories where somebody had their own original idea and someone's like, that's fucking stupid, throw Sonic on top, that's the only way it's gonna sell. It's no different than like a Star Fox Adventure or like what I mean? There's just some of the, or like even like a Resident Evil 7. I know it sounds like a weird kind of pull, but like I just feel like you could totally tell somebody else had a completely different idea, and then like the main executive's like, you know what, this is not gonna sell this way. Because it's like, really, you watch Sonic Underground, it's like, other than Sonic the Hedgehog and then Knuckles comes later on, it's like, so much of that stuff is like its own thing.
And Knuckles is only in like
2 episodes.
3 episodes.
Yeah, or 3 episodes.
So
it's not that Sonic Underground's bad, it's just, it's so weird and different that like, that's a strange one to kind of pull from. The odd thing is when you say it's like they don't have the rights to that stuff, it's weird because Sega's like, at the very beginning, Sega has like, they're like, boom, it's the Sega production, or not production, but you know what I mean? Sega's like one of the main like people there. It's not just like they licensed it, it seems like it's almost like still partially a Sega production.
That's not me saying like I did a whole lot of research. I literally heard like a podcast with the 2 writers of the movie, and they said, well, this is the one we have the rights to, plus a couple random things. What can we pull from? Well, Robotnik, Rings, and Sonic. So that's what we're going to work into, And I get that. If you just look into this strictly as a movie as Sonic 1, it does a pretty good job. Because even in Sonic 1, a lot of his levels and worlds are kind of, I mean, they're not as iconic and not as memorable other than Green Hill Zone. Probably the first 3 or 4 levels, really. Green Hill Zone. I like Marble Hill Zone. And that one's a little slower, but I like Marble Hill. There's it's not the casino level, but it has kind of that vibe of a casino level. You know what I mean? Like Spring Hill or whatever.
Oh yeah. Well, it's like what's like, cause
it's all kind of purple.
Because I like There's all those. Well, it's like then there's the Light Zone one or whatever the heck that is. Like this kind of like the spacey one. That one has like my favorite song in any of like the first Sonic game, But yeah, it's just one of those ones like, the small things of like what they can kind of pull from. But, there's still like, I think enough kind of stuff in there. And even like something I'll say is like, here's another one. The whole time I was watching the movie, I was like wondering, I'm like, well, I wonder what Sonic's going to call Robotnik. You know what I mean? Like, is he going to go, because, Robotnik's technically just the American name that really only exists like in the first like 3 games, or Sonic and Knuckles as well too. And once you get the Sonic Adventure, like they never use the word Robotnik, it seems like, ever again anymore. They just go straight up the Japanese one of calling him Dr. Eggman. And I liked how they called it.
Sorry.
They called him. He's Dr. Robotnik in here, but Sonic still could also make fun of him and call him Eggman at the same time. So it's like you get both names.
Yeah, well, it's even like I didn't even think about it because I was like the drones. He has his drones flying around, and I'm like, because they look like eggs to Sonic, so that's why he calls him Eggman. Like that's actually kind of clever. That's a good way to get it in there because he's calling him Eggman, just not making an obese joke. He's just like, oh, they're flying eggs. He's the Eggman. Okay, and the other thing with that is it's kind of weird because they've been kind of wishy-washy on, like, now that he is just Eggman, but they've been kind of wishy-washy on Robotnik versus Eggman, because even in Sonic Adventure, he's just like, look, it's Eggman, it's a silence, I am Dr. Robotnik, the greatest genius that ever lived, and then after that, he's like, yeah, I'm Eggman, whatever, I accepted it.
Yeah. Well,
I was going through a midlife crisis, another divorce, and I'm like, you know what, fuck it, yeah, I'm Eggman, I know who I am now.
The only one I was sort of waiting for Sonic to call him Buttnick at some point, but that's probably too offensive for like the 2010s era or 20s era, I guess, by this point. You know what I mean? Like, because you kind of forget about that. Like all those 90s like things that you could just freely say nowadays is looked upon like you're like the fucking devil saying it anymore.
Yeah,
because it's like, oh my god, like that guy just on that kid's cartoon, he called him Buttnick. That would be. It's so weird how that's so offensive nowadays. Though you could say shit now in a Green Man trailer, which I don't get how these two things don't collide anymore. But
it is weird how that could happen. I'll say this. Going back to just Sonic as a character for a second. I think this is probably. I mean, the comics have a long history with the character, and I haven't read very many in a long time, but I imagine those have them pretty fleshed out. I feel like as far as actual performances go, I feel like Ben Schwartz probably is really the best Sonic. A lot of it's probably the writing, in all honesty, because they gave him more to do, more than just say catchphrases and, you know, just like, I'm gonna stop you, Robotnik, you know, like, or we got a juice, like, rather than just like catchphrases. He actually, and he even said got a juice ever since probably the 90s cartoon, but still. I feel like this is probably the most fleshed out actual character of Sonic we got. So I do look forward to seeing more of these movies.
Yeah, and I think these movies, because like when I went to the showing, like I didn't go to exactly the first one. I went to like I think the second one of the night, and it was still really crowded. Like it was one of those ones. So it's like,
did you get a lot of laughs in your theater?
Yeah, people seem to really like it and so on. I mean, like, I made sure I sat down below. I'm like, I want to make sure that, like, I want a separation between me and if there's children there. And I was glad I did because there was, like, some, like, retarded Mexican, like, child up there who was like, "See ya, como!" Ah! You know, it's like, I don't know what the fuck was going on up there, but, like, he was just, like, he was either retarded or he was, like, not properly, like, raised. I'm not too sure what it was. But, but still, like, it's... Fucking like he was not helping the cause of anybody. Let's just say that. So I was glad I had that distance. But no, and it seemed like there was people that brought their like children there. Then there was of course all the Sega fans that came out of the fucking woodworks. You know what I mean? There was just like some, I was gonna say kid in a fucking Rio jacket, but like no, like some fucking 40-year-old kid in a Rio jacket from Shenmue just be like, I came here for the Sega experience.
Well, I'll say this: when I went to see it, theater wasn't super crowded. It was maybe like a quarter full, and it was mostly people in their 20s and 30s. Mostly, a couple older people there for some reason. Probably just nothing to do on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
And then there was like maybe 3 or 4 kids in the theater that you could tell that were brought there by their parents, and you could see the parents probably looked more excited about the movie than the kid did.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you could totally tell it's definitely a movie, it sounds weird, that's made for somebody between the ages of like 25 and 40.
Yeah.
I know that if like you try to explain that probably to like the head of like Paramount, they'd look at you like you're fucking retarded, but it's like, no, that's technically your target audience. Everything else below that's more just like kind of like a bonus, you know. But
there's that. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say it's like it was more popular than Birds of Prey. I know Birds of Prey didn't make a ton of money, so that's not saying much, but that felt like something that was very much more established, and then all of a sudden you have kind of a random Sonic movie, so I do think, though, that it has to do with that long year of that extra kind of publicity, I think made everybody kind of want to come out and see this movie much more than if this movie would have just came out as is, like the way it looks right now, but like if it would have just came out without the weird fucking trailer and without the monster Sonic and all that stuff, I think that made the movie is going to make the movie do way better than like it should have. I mean, maybe it might equal out because of all the extra expenses, but
it's kind of funny because I don't remember. I was talking to my mom. It was like Super Bowl or something, and it was a Super Bowl. Yeah, that's what prompted her. I was because Niners were playing, so everybody was watching. It's gonna seem like, what's this have to do with Sonic? But anyway, there's a Sonic ad somewhere in the Super Bowl. And my mom said, "Oh, by the way, did you see that Sonic trailer or something? Like, I didn't know there's a Sonic movie coming out." Like, yeah, we're probably gonna see it. It looks pretty good. My mom watched the trailer, and she said, like she looked at it. And I was just joking around, like, "Oh, you gonna go see it?" Because she grew up with me as a little. I mean, she didn't grow. I grew up. She grew up with me. My mom. But yeah, other way around. My mom got so fucking tired of Sonic and Mario and Batman as a kid when I was a kid. So she's like, "Oh god, this shit's back," But she watched the trailer. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it looks kind of funny and it looks better than I thought it would be. I'm not gonna go see it just on the principle that it's Sonic and I don't have to deal with that shit anymore. So, but that being said, it actually looks funny. So I'm like, okay, I get where you're coming from. But at the same time, I was just thinking, like, God, it got her to kind of say it looked funny and doesn't look that bad, but she doesn't want to see it just because it's Sonic. So,
yeah,
like, all right, so you gotta stand by it.
Yeah, you gotta stand by those principles sometimes, because that's the only way in life. But yeah, no, I think it does have a bit of an overall appeal that can kind of like maybe transcend more than just the target audience.
Yeah, well, I'm even thinking like. I was thinking, like, every so often I get to use the excuse, like, oh, yeah, I got to go take my nephew to go see this, movie that's essentially for kids, but I'm kind of curious about. Now, one of those nephews is 19. The other one is, like, now 14. So now it's just like, hey, want to go see the new Sonic movie? Fuck off! I want to go see the new Saw. I don't know why he's saying it like a fucking, like, moody teen. He's saying it like he's a fucking emo kid. But, like, yeah, okay, all right, guess can't pull this one no more.
Yeah, and I was like, well, that's when you just like find some kid like on the fucking street and be like, hey, hey Timmy, that's my name. Yeah, you look like a Timmy to me. You want to go see the new Sonic movie? Just didn't want to
get in the van.
Didn't want to go alone. You look alone. You just don't have any friends. I don't have any friends either.
Yeah, I can tell.
Well, Timmy, you have a really deep voice for a 6-year-old. Yeah, fuck off, man.
Yeah, I just got done with my 5th pack of cigarettes for the day.
But so what you're saying is you just need to find somebody else's child that you could take places.
Well, now it's just one of those things of like, it was like.
So
my girlfriend and I saw
there needs to be a
and...
service that like almost kind of like like where you could kind of rent a child for the day, so like you don't feel up.
Rent a child for the day so you don't feel bad about seeing children's movies in theaters. Yeah, that's kind of what it is.
It's kind of like a mixed match. It's kind of like daycare / it goes both ways though. It's kind of like
you have to pay them though. You have to pay to like this can go like some dark corners though. So it's like, okay, you're gonna take the kid to the movie? That's all you're gonna do, just the fucking movie. But depending on the kid that is quiet, that sits there arms crossed, doesn't say anything, that kid always has 5 stars.
Exactly. You know what I mean? It's a weird one. It's like it's the daycare's free for the parents, but then they have to send them off with a random lonely stranger that just wants a kid to take to the movies.
I mean, I think that you could maybe pull something off. Like, I don't need that service. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm just saying that's probably the reason I didn't see Teen Titans Go in theaters. So.
Well, my favorite part's when you go to the theaters is like a bunch of like adults, and then there's that momentary where there's like a guy that comes in with like his like kids and whatnot. And he looks and he almost has that confused look, like he just walked into a rated R movie. Like, wait, so this can't be the right one, right? It's like, I don't know, come on in, this is the Lego movie. Come sit down.
I think my favorite one is when we walked into. There's that one, and then I think there was what was the other situation where something like that happened? It was fuck. God, there's another one that was similar to the Lego movie, but there's one where I want to say, oh no, there was like we went to go see. We were both kind of curious about Ratchet and Clank. Like, well, it's a video game movie. It's by the creators of the game. Let's just kind of see. And then just like it was seriously one of the most like awkward things ever, because you saw like three or four Walmart moms come in dragging their like kids, and like the kids are just like, kids don't even like the movie, and the Walmart mom's just like, fuck, I hate my goddamn life.
Yeah, I remember that one. That was just like, because there was literally, that was a perfect example, because I think we saw it at like an odd time anyways. We didn't see it like opening day, so it's like you didn't have any Ratchet and Clank fans there at all. It was just like whoever was fucking free on a Tuesday or something like that needed to drop their kids off for like 2 hours.
Yeah, no, that one was, and just like the parents are looking at us, like judging us, like what the fuck are they doing here in this movie? It's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, your kids run up and down the aisle like that.
Yeah. Fucking learn to parent. Fucking lazy ass. Come on, Jesus Christ. But
No, but
yeah,
going back to
I don't
this
know, like,
though, I think that this movie is aware of like who it's aimed at. Like, yeah, it's still a kids movie, but let's be honest, who really wants to see this movie more than anyone else?
that's what I mean. Is I feel like it's one of those ones like it's a movie that's like it's good for kids, but like it's sophisticated enough that it keeps like it's kind of like in a sense adult like it's a family movie in a sense. You know, anybody can watch it, and I don't know. It's one of those ones like I almost really want to go see this movie again in theaters. I know I probably won't because there's always something else coming out, but like. It's one of those ones like I liked it just so much more than I really even thought I was. Like I thought like I probably was gonna enjoy it more than most people. Like most things kind of always are, but like I was surprised that like I'm like, dude, this is like a really just fun, solid movie at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And if it all it has to do is get even better with a sequel, and it's like the possibilities are endless. You know, like to me it was like one of those ones like it was just like it was just so dialed in. I know I'm saying this after the person's like. I have my nitpickiness of like sort of like Birds of Prey, which sounds like so weird. It's like you're the fucking guy nitpicks fucking Birds of Prey, and then he goes into Sonic the Hedgehog and says how fucking amazing it is. I'm like, I don't know. It's just like it was maybe just that solidness that like I don't know. You just didn't know what to expect of this movie, and I think that probably helps it. But like, yeah, overall, it's just like it was fucking good.
It was, and I'm really, I'll say this: when that first trailer came out, I thought this movie was going to be a piece of dog shit, and I'm so glad I was wrong, and I'm glad it wasn't. I'm glad this was a good movie, and I think that if I saw this movie, if this movie somehow came out when I was 10, this would easily be one of my favorite movies, probably.
Oh, so
much. Because this is
I feel like this. If I was a 10-year-old, like,
oh, go ahead.
This would have been that movie, or even like younger too. Like let's just say like that early Sonic era, like Sonic 1, 2, CD. Like this would have been those movies where I would have probably watched it like every other night.
Probably, definitely, yeah. And on top of that, like I'll say, I know that I had some nitpicks. Like I said, I wish the movie was a little bit more visually interesting because when they go to Earth, they do go to some basic kind of plain spots, and you go to San Francisco, and you're just really in there just for a minute, and you're not even in the most interesting parts of San Francisco. But like, Sonic's like, I'm just gonna run through the Tenderloin while this random mustache chases me down. He's like, the Tenderloin.
Bro, you can still buy a brand new black and white TV.
But like,
where's this guy get his inventory?
What?
It's like, where's this guy get his inventory? That was always like the one thing I was remembering of the Tenderloin. It was like, I'm like, is that a fucking black and white TV brand new in the box for sale? Like, and there's multiple ones there. Like, how is this guy like? What kind of business is this behind closed doors?
Yeah. Well, even watching that movie, because now since I live in the city, I'm just watching that movie, and I'm just looking for like certain streets and all that. And he mainly just stays around kind of like the financial district and kind of like near Market and all that. That's kind of most of the area he's around. He does. I think he cuts through maybe part of the Tenderloin for a second, but I think it all mostly looks like Market Street area generally in financial district. But which is not really the most interesting part of the city, but they're probably like, we're only here for a day, fuck it, go, So, but I'll say that final chase scene, even though we don't see a whole lot of this place he goes to, the idea of he's just hopping from like China to Paris to back to the US, back to, all over the place. That was pretty cool. He's doing that with the rings.
Yeah, that actually is another really cool part. That like you just didn't really expect that to happen, and it's like, oh, that little extra touch to kind of add in there, and the fact that it's like, yeah, you could just kind of. The nice thing about that too is that's one of those ones you just send like one camera crew out, they go fucking shoot that, then you just CG in all that cool stuff and call it a day. Make it super simple and easy, like Robert Rodriguez style.
Yeah. So no, like I think that, and I think that's also meant to be somewhat of kind of like a nod to Sonic Unleashed or something like that, because in that game all the levelers are inspired off of different countries.
Yeah, that could definitely be something like that too, but
I mean, there's literally a level where you're running up the Great Wall of China, or a variation of Great Wall of China. So yeah.
But no, yeah. Overall, I was super stoked with this. And this is the thing too. Is like, because remember like when Detective Pikachu, because that was like when like the original kind of trailer was around and so on. It was when Detective Pikachu kind of came out. Everybody's like, oh, yeah, Detective Pikachu's gonna fucking blow fucking Sonic the Hedgehog out of the water. And I oddly, after seeing both of them, like I still enjoyed Detective Pikachu, but it's like one's like I'm like actually I think the Sonic the Hedgehog movie is way better than Detective Pikachu. I mean, Detective Pikachu is good, but like it's funny how like you just because I remember the whole time thinking of like Detective Pikachu, you're like, man, if Sonic just made it look like how Detective Pikachu did, that would be perfect. And it's just like at the end of the day, it's like no, I think the Sonic one. Granted, it's a year later practically, but that one's I don't know. That was the more dialed in movie out of the two.
I agree, and I think part of the reason is here's the thing. I think Detective Pikachu is a better looking movie. The world it takes place in is just more visually interesting. Maybe if Sonic stayed in Mobius, that'd be the case. But right now, I think Detective Pikachu looks like a better movie. But I think Sonic, story-wise and structure-wise, is a better movie.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, I think a reason of that is Detective Pikachu. Like I said, I watched. I think I said it last episode or episode before. I watched it again recently, and I liked it more the second time around. And I liked it walking out of it, but I think, okay, this movie's better than I remember it being. But at the same time, it does that thing where it lays most of the comedy on Ryan Reynolds. And Ryan Reynolds' Pikachu stands out from everybody else because he's the one really clever, funny thing in the movie. Everybody else is very stilted. Where this movie, it splits the comedy up between
Everybody, pretty much.
Jim Carrey. What?
Pretty much everybody.
Yeah, well, primarily Jim Carrey and Ben Schwartz, and then everybody else. Like, I mean, maybe James Marsden doesn't have a bunch of funny jokes, but he plays well off of Sonic. Mm-hmm. So I think that there's a little bit more consistency there.
Yeah, that's definitely true because it has that, like, yeah, the Detective Pikachu has that. It has that kind of just that problem of like that sometimes you see it with like sitcoms that don't last very long, where it's just like the one funny comedian and then everybody else doesn't have any jokes for some reason, or it doesn't have good jokes. Like it has that sort of kind of feel where it's just like it's too much relying on the Ryan Reynolds-ness. And I think also too is, like the only downfall of the Detective Pikachu one is, I mean, I know it's going for like a different kind of style, but like you almost kind of wish it had just more like real Pokemon likeness to it, like of battles and so on like that. Like where I feel like the Sonic one kind of, I feel captures Sonic the Hedgehog pretty well, just like right away, where you're not trying to do sort of an offshoot Sonic the Hedgehog. It's like, oh no, that's pretty straight up Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, I think this one, even though they're kind of limited on how much they could put in there, I think they still kind of captured what the game was all about and still had a good characterization of it, with it still feeling like, okay, I feel like even if you don't know the character or the game, I mean, I think that there's some people, they're not going to like the movie if they don't give a shit about the game, but I think some people that are kind of like, all right, well, I'm kind of willing to give it a shot. Like, for instance, this is becoming the thing. Well, this is what my girlfriend thought of it, but my girlfriend, who never really played a Sonic game, never really cared to play Sonic, she walked out of the movie saying, oh, I thought it was good. I liked it. I wasn't blown away by it, but I liked it, and I liked it way more than I thought I would, given off that first two trailers. So I think that it's one of those things where it can walk that middle ground. I've heard some reviews where the people who do like Sonic didn't like the movie because maybe they're expecting too much of it, well, they didn't have Knuckles, they didn't have Shadow or whatever. But then there's those other ones where it's just like, oh, it's just another anthropomorphic animal in a human world stereotype movie. This is IGN. Not IGN, but it was fucking Nerdist or some horse shit like that.
Well, one of the crappy companies.
Nerdist was cool back when Chris Hardwick ran.
Well, I feel like without Chris Hardwick, why the fuck would I care about the Nerdist? You know what I mean? Like literally, without
it's just another IGN. That's all it is now. So fuck it.
Yeah.
But they had this whole like snarky little like oh, I'm too cool for this movie kind of review, which is like, fuck off. But at the same time though, I think that like there's most of the reviews I heard on this thing have been generally pretty good. Like being like, oh, it's really good, to, oh, I like it. I wasn't blown away, but I like it. That's kind of what I've mostly heard so far. So,
and that makes about sense, because that's what I probably would say. It's like most ones, like, granted, yeah, you're gonna like it a lot more if you like Sonic the Hedgehog. I think it's definitely one of those movies. I think it's about a solid kind of middle of the road movie. Probably if you're not really into Sonic,
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if someone was really turned by like it being like, oh my gosh, that movie was fucking amazing, and I fucking hate Sonic the Hedgehog. Like I don't think that review's coming out too often, but
yeah, I've heard people say like they were never really into the games, they know of them, but they really liked the movie. So, and at the end of the day, it's definitely a movie I'd like to own. So that's something right there.
Yeah, that's definitely one. I wish I hope it has special features. It might not, but it's one of those ones like, as I said, like what would really make my day is if for some reason somebody cobbled together the fucking like original version of the movie and put that on like a super special edition. Like that would be so cool. I know that's like nobody's probably going to do that, or at least not anytime soon. That's like something that might happen like 25 years from now. You know what I mean? The 25th anniversary version of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Now I want to know like what is it going to be that like what's going to be like what if that's how they made Sonic? They changed Sonic's look. How did Tails originally look then? Was he just like the fox from Antichrist?
I know exactly. Though I kind of almost
like he just comes to the portal. He's like, chaos reigns. Like, oh shit.
The crack fox from like Mighty Boosh or something. But
yeah.
Like it's one of those ones. Like I almost feel like the Tails thing might not have been in there either. Like I feel like that if the movie is like the way of like the retroactively fixing it all, it might be that Tails stuff's brand new, the Mobius stuff in the beginning's brand new, or so on. Unless, for some reason, it was just a publicity stunt. I'm still kind of 50-50 on this. I still think that there's a chance that this could have been a publicity stunt. And they already had the movie totally done. They made that other trailer just to, like, really, like, stir up some controversy and get some free press. I don't know. I could go both directions on it, but I like to keep an open mind on this. I feel like maybe in 10 years, like, if they really can, like, hold their fucking tongue, someone's going to come out and say that, but...
Yeah, I am really curious to know what this thing would have been. So, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully, this movie does good enough to get a sequel.
Yeah. So, and it's, as I said, like I was pretty like a lot of times you can always kind of judge a movie like on day one because like that mostly always lets you know yay or nay how well a movie does. When you go to a movie and you realize that you're 1 out of 5 people there. That mostly is always like, well, this movie's not going to do so good. But when I go there, it's like, oh, it's, not saying it's like, Avengers packed, but it's like, it's pretty like, oh, there's a pretty good audience here. Hopefully that means for the next 2 weeks, it's going to have a steady stream of people. And even with the redos and all that stuff, I mean, I know that's like 6 months of hiring people still back at your studio and whatnot. Hopefully this movie's still kind of in that lower budget category. So it doesn't need to make as much money to kind of get back. Because really at the end of the day, it's like your only real like huge actor in it's just Jim Carrey. Everything else, is kind of a little bit more easier to kind of pay off, where, I guess if you have some movies, there's some other movies out there too where you get a little bit too big of a cast and the next thing you know, it's like, oh shit, that took up all our money and so on. But yeah, I don't know. I'm looking forward to whatever Sega kind of does next, hopefully, and puts out, more Sonic movies come. And then maybe from that point on, I don't know, maybe there could finally Sega can be having a kind of a nicer comeback, but who knows?
Yeah, I still have not heard Sega's reaction to the movie yet. 'Cause for like Yuji Naka and all them were just like, I don't fucking know about this. But now, like, hopefully, we'll see. Gotta look into that. But yeah, go see Sonic if you like Sonic. That's all I can say.
Yeah, that's totally fine. I said I'd like to see it again. But beyond that, go to oldmanorange.com for more podcasts, comics like Pizza Boyz. That's Pizza Boyz with a Z. Animations and all that fun stuff. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunigan.
And we'll see you some other time.
Later, folks.
Thanks again for listening to the Old Man Orange Podcast. Sure, check out oldmanorange.com for more podcasts, cartoons, music, animation, and a whole lot more. We also have the Old Man Orange blog going with all kinds of fun stuff. If you easily want to support the show, use one of our Amazon links either on the website or in the description of the podcast below. Rate, review, and subscribe to the show either on Podbean, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Newgrounds, or anywhere else that you seem to get this podcast from. Grab the sitcom-styled comic book Pizza Boyz on either Comic Central, Comixology, or Amazon. Want more podcasts? Check out the Indie Comics Club over at Comic Central. I also got a workout website called Thor's Hidden Gym, filled with fitness tips and tricks, videos, and a whole lot more fun stuff in the calisthenics world. Talk to us on Twitter at Spencer S. Holmes and Dunigan Ryan. Like our Facebook pages of Old Man Orange Productions and Pizza Boyz Comic. Thanks again, we're out of here.